everyone, this is Ao3 podfic, back with another podfic. Sorry I didn't post last week. I was in Oregon, last Sunday, and I don't normally live in Oregon, so I was a long way away from home. I was like 5.5 hours away from where I live. So yeah, I decided to take last week off because I was in Oregon for country fair. But we are at the it's not the penultimate chapter because there are 4 chapters of this left, but it is the penultimate video because I do 2 chapters at a time for this one. So, and this fic is getting happy again. This fic is getting happy. I don't know how I feel about that because it just means it's almost over. God, I started this fic so long ago. It's almost been a year since I started this channel. Like, what was it? I think it was like August. I started this channel in like August, and now it's like the end of the end of July, like end 3rd of July. Well, that's a lot to take in. Anyway, let's head right into I'll Be Home with Frayed Feathers by fictionforlife_NZ. Let's head right in. Chapter 33. I Can't Help But Wonder. When the adrenaline and rage finally wore off, the armory contained only one survivor amongst the mess of corpses strung between the golden chains. Some had been hacked at with a blade or burned deeply enough by the chains that they sported missing limbs and spilled innards. The room reeked of death and chaos, just like Troy had when it burned. Odysseus hoped that from this point forward he would never have to smell that sort of destruction ever again. The screams of the suitors had come to fill the space left behind by his comrades, who had finally grown quiet after the stand against Poseidon. He found them far less haunting, and he knew they would not linger as long. What guilt did he have for beasts who had planned to rip his family to shreds for their own selfish cravings of lust and power? Exhaustion was yet to take him despite the night he had just had, as all he could think of was who was still hiding somewhere beyond the door to this room. Whisked away from his slaughtering by Hermes, after being saved from being used as a hostage against him. He wasn't sure what he would have done if it had actually been his son held at the point of that dagger. He owed them even more than he already did. He had seen the bodies, ones that he had not made but had still died to a weapon. His son had returned in the night, and he had fought. And his son had won against those opponents. Despite the odds, his child had managed to fight back, and evaded capture long enough to be intercepted by Hermes. The blood in his wings was starting to dry and itch. Many of his white feathers were matted and clumped with gore from his ceaseless hunting. He drew into another of the gifted chitons, but he found he cared little about anything besides finding where his child had gone. His great-grandfather wouldn't have moved him far. Hopefully he wasn't too unsightly. He left his bow outside the armory door, marking the room where a gruesome justice had been dealt and would need to be cleaned later, crept toward the dining hall where it had all started. He didn't think there were any more suitors left. He'd counted as he went, but it would have been easy enough to lose track of one or more in the haze he had found himself in. His fingers kept itching to grab the blade at his hip, to prepare for the next opponent he was almost certain would never come. He paused at the archways into the hall, many of the tables still laden with food and the corpses of his first 2 kills, and called, "Hermes? Over here, darling!" A shaded face popped up from behind an overturned table, grinning cheerfully, followed more hastily by another who stole his breath away. He found himself staring as they stood up and made their way around the table. They looked so much like him. They even had his wings. Father? Oh, how he'd longed to hear that voice, to finally know what they would sounded like. Son, he gasped, scarcely believing that this was real anymore. It had felt real up until now, but seeing his family for the first time in 20 years, it almost didn't feel like he'd actually finished his journey home. He was terrified at any second now he was gonna wake up and be back in that little boat still sailing with Hermes, or gods forbid even that island he had been trapped on for so long. He could feel his wings half curled around himself, the smaller sets of his heels twitching. Telemachus, with an encouraging nudge from Hermes, stepped closer. Their own wings, how fine they had grown compared to his, mimicking Odysseus's. Are you real? I am. At least he thought he was. He hoped this was real, that his peace had finally been granted after so long. It felt real, down to the discomfort in his own feathers from the blood. Hermes would never play such a cruel trick on him, nor would he stand to let any of the other gods do such a thing either. This had to be the end. Telemachus exhaled shakily and continued to tread closer. It took nearly all his remaining strength not to rush forward and scoop his child into his arms and bury them the way Hermes would often do to him. They were still wary. He could see it in their eyes. He needed to let them come to him to prove to himself that this was really his father and not just a monster. Bloodied, worn down, and scarred, but very much the man who had been fighting to get home to Ithaca and the family he was forced to leave behind. Then this is actually happening. You're finally here. They sounded so hopeful. It felt great to return it with real reassurance, and not the false lies of confidence he'd been forced to give for so many years. I'm finally here. His son sucked in a sharp breath, pulling their hands up to their chest as if to hold themselves, and all the fragile emotions threatening to spill over. Odysseus could feel his own swelling in his chest. Whoever started crying first would certainly doom the other to the same fate, but it didn't matter if they did. They'd both been through a lot. All my life I've practically died to meet you, Telemachus admitted softly. I thought about you so much that it still hurts. Mother told me stories about the person you were and how alike I was, but I was starting to think I'd never get to know if they were true or not. Their wings tugged closer. They rubbed one eye vigorously to dispel the budding tears. As they did, he caught sight of the gold leaf clip in his hair. It used to belong to him. Penelope had remembered that he wanted to give it to them when they were old enough. She'd done it for him because he couldn't. It looked right in their hair. For nearly 20 years I've been dreaming of this moment and the things I'd say to you, and now I scarcely know what to say. That's fine, he responded, daring to shuffle just one step closer to his child. I don't really know what to say either. I've wanted to know what you were like for so long now that I was scared I'd never grow past this pain. But now you're here. They gasped shakily, their feathers quivering. I can't help but wonder what your world has been like for the last 20 years. How alike we really are despite being kept apart for so long. Do I have your strength in me somewhere? I'm not sure if I do anymore, not after what nearly happened in the weapons room. His son was plenty strong. He was strong in a way Odysseus no longer was, could no longer afford to be. For how long had his precious child thought of themselves weak? I wasn't sure if you'd even be willing to embrace me as your own, because I never felt like I was good enough to be your son. That's stupid, isn't it? They chuckled sadly, the tears finally starting to spill. 20 years of wondering and feeling alone, and now I'm almost too scared to hear the answer. They'd been hurt nearly as badly as him, and maybe they were a little damaged, but their whole family probably was by now. It certainly did not make them weak. What strength he lacked, they certainly had, and even if they weren't, why would that matter to him? Oh, my son, look how much you've grown. He sighed, reaching out and then pulling back. You were one of the sweetest joys I'd ever known some 20 years ago, and when I had the chance to hold you in my arms. Now it was his turn to chuckle sadly, looking at the ground they stood on and the bloodied footprints he had caused it to be marked with. Nearly 108 men had fallen by his hands tonight, and he had lost 600 on the way. He'd do it again, just for this moment. How time has flown. When you were a baby, I used to say that I'd make the storm clouds cry for you. And he did. I used to promise that I'd capture the wind and sky for you. And he had. I was prepared to die for you, and I don't regret it. You have wondered what my life has been like away from the ones I love, and I have wondered what the world you were left with has been like for you. When he looked up, their eyes were wide. It made his heart clench to realize they hadn't expected him to return and be willing to accept them. How many poisonous words had those suitors forced him to take in, to the point where they'd started to believe he wouldn't love them? You've had to suffer many things because I couldn't be there for you like I wanted to. You are strong in so many ways that you don't seem to realize, and I hope one day I'll be able to explain to you so that you might understand as I do. He took another step. His son matched him. They were almost within reach. When I was at war, and when it ended, I cared for nothing of the riches or glory that came with felling Troy. All I ever wanted was to reunite with the ones I had been ripped away from. 20 years we've both wondered, and today we finally get to know each other. Both of their faces were wet with tears, their voices broken from the sheer weight of messy emotion piled into them. Feathers so alike to his own were twitching. The appendages they were on slowly opening up fully. My son, he sobbed. I'm finally home. And just like that, they were in his arms, burying their head into his chest and sobbing away the 20 years of pain they'd endured. Their wings, longer than his own by a small amount, tucked so tightly that he managed to make themselves look so much smaller and younger than they were. A far cry from the man they had been forced to grow into too early. "Father," they cried, "I can't believe it. I waited, and now you're—" "Oh, Telemachus," he soothed, his own tears dampening his son's hair as he tucked them close. "I'm here. I'm home." "You're home," they repeated, hands fisted so tightly into his chiton that Odysseus was scared they would be ripped away by some unforeseen force. "You're home." He wrapped his wings around them, burying them under his feathers like Hermes would do, shielding him from the world that had been so cruel to them both, that had hurt them so badly they were so scared to let go even after some time had passed. The blood of the suitors and the lingering ichor from Poseidon had darkened and dried on both of them by the time they dared lean apart, finally ready to loosen their grip without fearing the other would suddenly disappear. It was real. He was home, and his family was finally safe. They had both faced monsters, and they had both survived. And that was chapter 33. Now on to chapter 34. Don't have to live this way. Am I allowed to join yet? Odysseus had to give credit where it was due. Hermes hadn't interrupted at all when he was reuniting with his son. It was only fair to let them in now that they had both confirmed that this was real. "You can. Come meet your great-great-grandson," he invited. "His what?" He didn't get a chance to answer his confused child before Hermes, stronger than both of them combined, despite only being their size, had scooped them both up and tucked them into his arms, his one good wing draping over their backs, white feathers over bloody brown and red ones, not even flinching when Telemachus's arm accidentally brushed over the wrapped claw wounds on his chest. "Look at this! I get to hold both of my grandchildren at the same time!" they cooed, his two sets of ear wings fluttering. "You two really do look just like each other." Dad?" "It's all right, son. He's just clingy," Odysseus teased, batting one of their ear wings with his own. They gasped in mock offense, tightening their hold enough that he wasn't able to wriggle free like Telemachus proceeded to do. One finger prodded him in the side as they spoke, unconcerned by the blood that clung to it when removed. "Clingy! I made the mistake of leaving you alone, and you went missing for 7 years! I have every right to stick close to you! Don't you dare call me clingy!" "What's going on?" "Telemachus, this is your great-great-grandfather Hermes," he introduced, untangling himself from the god. "He helped me get home." His son's feathers were bristling, but the messenger god paid no mind as he rushed over and pulled them into another hug. They squirmed around slightly before realizing that there was no threat, relaxing into the hold. Odysseus had the patience to let his son come to him. Hermes clearly did not. "My, you just keep growing, don't you?" the god chuckled, ruffling their hair with one hand. "And look at your wings! They're far better than your father's have ever been. Still quite messy, though. You're lucky I have to leave them alone for now. I can't steal the first cleansing session from your father after all this time. I wonder if you hate having your ear wings cleaned as well." "You're not upset by them?" "Goodness, no, darling. I'm the one that gave him to you. Well, technically, your father gave him to you, but he got his from me, so in a sense, I gave you yours as well." I'm still confused," Telemachus stammered. "That's okay. It took me some time to figure things out, too," Odysseus reassured, gently tugging his son free from the god's hold. "There's a lot of things you deserve to know, just maybe not right now." "Yes, I suppose we have some messes to clean up first, and you two both need to sleep soon," Hermes agreed. "But after that, we've got a lot to do together. I can't wait to get you both in the air with me, though that may be a few months off." He waved one hand at his broken wing, still bound by Odysseus' headband. They'd need to splint it soon, or it would heal wrong and need to be rebroken. But first, there'll be time to explain everything soon enough. "Son, can you go tell your mother I'm home?" he asked, pressing the edges of his largest wings against their own. "I'll be there shortly." The smile they gave him, so full of joy, made his heart feel ready to burst. This would be the first time in 20 years that he'd had both of his parents around. The possibilities for the future were near endless for him now. Odysseus couldn't wait to make new memories with his family. "Of course!" He watched them leave the room. Their wings twitched and flapped as they went. One hand reached out after them on instinct, that ugly fear rearing its head briefly as they rounded the corner and disappeared from sight. It settled just as quickly. They'd be back soon. There was nothing left to hurt either of them. "You can show yourself now," he said. "I know you're watching." He had spent too long in the presence of gods to not know when another divine energy was near, and this one was familiar enough that his feathers bristled on reflex, his wings behind his ears folded shut so as to not be grabbed again. When a tall, blue-clad figure appeared, he had already braced for sharp words and disapproval. But Athena kept her distance, her hands at her sides and her gaze downcast. Her head tilted to shadow the left side of her face, but not enough that his sharp eyes missed the giant branching scar that covered it. There was a story there, one she wasn't ready to tell. "You never won for hellos, Athena. Why are you here?" he asked softly. I came to apologize," she rasped, her voice still not recovered from it, and her movements pain from whatever it was she had faced. "I hoped that I could create a better world with my students, but I did not have the emotional capacity to teach such delicate things, nor to handle emotional responses from those I had agreed to teach." She had never seemed to understand that side of him, the human he was alongside the king and warrior he was raised to be. She tended to be harsh with when his responses were anything less than calculated, so he'd simply learned to push past her criticism and continue forward. The relationship has always been unstable, and it had taken him a long time to acknowledge and confront it. Clearly it had not ended well for either of them. "I should have been more empathetic after witnessing what you had been through all those years ago. I couldn't help but feel like I'd led you astray. Too many times for me to count, and did nothing when you suffered from my teaching methods. And then I left you when you needed me most. I don't think that I can ever fix the damage I did." She couldn't, but Odysseus couldn't fix what he'd done either. They'd both caused the last 10 years of pain and grief, and had lost far more than what they could ever get back as a result. All they could do was keep moving forward. "I'm truly sorry for everything, Odysseus," she said, one hand quickly swiping away the singular tear that had threatened to spill from her good eye. "I'd hoped that, maybe, there could be a future ahead of us both, where we don't have to live this way." There was a future, just not the one she hoped for. Hermes' good wing had settled over his back while the goddess of wisdom apologized. He couldn't help but look at it in his own ichor, and at his own ichor and blood-stained ones. He couldn't help but think about the clothes he now wore, or the pin that had held his cloak on the final stretch of their journey. Most of it all, he couldn't help to think about his eyes, once a stormy gray with flecks of silver to show her blessing, now burned gold and blue like Hermes's. He wasn't her warrior of the mind anymore. He wouldn't ever be again. He was too far changed for that, and too wary for his journey to pursue such challenges again. He just wanted his family now. He wanted to be safe, to be able to rest, and to be able to fly without feeling shackled to his past anymore. He wasn't ready to try and change the world after it had changed him so much. "Athena," he sighed, "I think we both know that if that future exists, it's not here, and I will never be able to see it. I'm tired, Athena. I would like to rest. The future you wish for is something you will be able to find, but it will be without me at your side. I can't be your student anymore, and I'm not sure I'm ready to be your friend yet." It was odd to be able to feel her divine power dim with his response. Still, she did not raise her voice or respond with anything other than sad acceptance. She really had changed. "Very well. Thank you, goddess, for everything you've done for me," he added, just to make her smile less sad. "You are still welcome in Ithaca, as you always will be. Who knows, my son may still be looking for a mentor." She dipped her head in recognition, and then addressed the other god standing protectively behind him. When she lifted her head, he was able to get a better look at the scar. It looked an awful lot like something that could be done with lightning or fire. Perhaps one day he'd have the courage to ask, and she would be willing to answer. "So that's it, then. You got him home." He got himself home. I was just there for support," Hermes responded, and Odysseus batted his wings against the one still covering him. "Thank you for your help, sister." "I only wish I'd had the sense to do it sooner," she murmured regretfully. "I'm glad he had you with him, and I'm glad he'll have you going forward." "I think I speak for the both of us when I say the offer about Telemachus is true. I may be the one to teach him and his father how to fly, but I'm not very good with fighting techniques or diplomacy." He chuckled. And then added in a more serious tone, "I'm also aware that soon I may be unavailable in Olympus for my duties. I won't ask anything of you except to not interfere on my behalf. I know what I did, and I don't regret it." "What do you mean?" Odysseus asked, concern making his feathers rise. "Do you remember how I said I wasn't allowed to help you directly in the fight against Circe? Divine intervention is meant to be just that. Indirect assistance from the gods. I've broken a lot of rules to get you home, darling, and I will be punished for it," his great-grandfather admitted, his ear wings folding forward to add to the shadow over his eyes. "But as I just said, I don't regret it." "I can help," he blurted. "I don't know how much the suitors have taken from the palace stores, but we can make sacrifices, and They pressed a finger against his lips, shushing him and rubbing a hand comfortingly over his right shoulder. "There's no need for anything like that. You've done more than enough for me already, darling. It won't be too bad. I'm the messenger god after all. They still need me if they want things to run smoothly. I'll likely just be banished for a year or two and stripped of most of my power for that time. Nothing I won't be able to handle." "You can stay here then," he offered. "If you're going to be cast away like I was, then I want you to be somewhere safe and in good company." "I'd like that, darling," Hermes agreed, his good wing batting back against his ones. "Would you like me to tell father?" Athena asked, and neither of them missed the way her hands seemed to tighten in preparation. "I'd rather you didn't, sister. We don't want you anywhere near him if he gets angry. I'll get Thanatos to inform him that I cannot reach Olympus to stand trial, and will accept whatever punishment he deems worthy for my rule-breaking." "Will Thanatos be able to take that message?" "He will. He's going to have to come to Ithaca soon enough to collect the 108 souls here. I'm certainly not taking them down to Hades," Hermes confirmed, waving one hand at the injuries in emphasis. "You need not do anything for me, sister. You have already done more than I could ever ask of you." "Then I will part ways with you both for now. But know that I am very inclined to accept your offers, King of Ithaca and God of Lies, and I am very grateful that you are willing to move past my mistakes as a mentor and fellow god." "Goodbye, Athena." "See you around, sister." A scarred gray owl glided out of one of the dining hall windows and into the early morning sky just before Telemachus returned. His son's feathers fluffed and his smaller sets of wings fluttering. He seemed out of breath from running to find Penelope or from exclaiming in excitement about his return. He did not know. He'd have time to find out, though. "Father, she's waiting for you in the royal quarters," his son informed, their eyes lighting up just from seeing him still standing in the dining hall and not gone like some illusion they'd both feared the other to be. "Thank you," he replied, letting them briefly tuck under his wings before he had to depart. "Would you be willing to do the last thing for me while I'm with your mother?" "Anything. Can you find somewhere for Hermes to rest and recover? We'll find somebody to look at his injuries when we can." "I can try, but I don't think there's any guest rooms that haven't been ruined by the suitors. My bedroom should be untouched, though, and I don't mind sleeping elsewhere if you need me to." "None of that talk, darling. I'll sleep anywhere at this point, provided I have a pillow or two," Hermes assured, taking Odysseus' place next to his son while he made for the hallway that would take him to his beloved. I don't mind sharing a room with you, don't, but if you'd rather have your space, I'll find somewhere else to rest up. I don't mind." "You don't? But you're a god." "I am, and I've been to places far less hospitable than here. You were certainly a very good host to me when I was around last time." "I was?" "Yep, take a look, darling." There were a few heartbeats of silence. Then Odysseus paused to listen, only to break out in a run towards the royal quarters, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth at his son's response. "You were the tortoise I found?" Okay, and that is the end of chapters 33 and 34. I love that ending. I love that ending. It's like, yeah, we all knew, but Telemachus never found out. Sorry, what? Okay. Okay, I think I'm good now. Okay. Again, sorry that I missed last week. That was just, I was in a different state. Like a different state. And I just, wanted to take a break. I was also, camping for, almost a week. So, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So much fun. It was so much fun. Let's see, there was a lot of stuff I did. There was this really nice, group of people because, it's country fair, everybody's nice. But there was this really nice, group of people who had set up, so, for some context, at night, at this fair, or at the campground, everybody sets up, lights and blacklight stuff and has activities for you to walk around and do. It's always so much fun. And this one really nice group of people had this blacklight lit corner area that was just a kinetic sand room, and across from it was a painting station for during the day. And so that was so much fun. I did here, I can show some of the photos of some of the stuff I sculpted. Here. So I did this little strawberry. I did this butterfly. and I did this skull that's like dripping and oozing stuff out of its mouth and nose. It's really cool. Oh yeah, there's also something called the Nook, where it's like these sketchbooks like in this kind of nook in this tree, and you can draw and write whatever you want. So I drew this, which is of I drew this, which is a drawing of me and my girlfriend. Yeah. And then I did this one, which is one of my characters. Her name is Mimia. I did another drawing with her in it, but I didn't take a photo of it, unfortunately. So, yeah. It was lots of fun. I also met a bunch of other cool people who were, like, they had this, like, giant, oh, yeah, and like, a different group of people had this, like, mini glow section where it was, like, this fabric in picture frames, and you could take these pens and draw with them on the thing, and it would, like, glow. It was super cool. I have no idea how it works. But at this other camp, they had a giant one of them, and I went over there for, like, 2 straight nights, like 2 or 3 straight nights, and I went and I drew, and everybody was having so much fun, and it was a great time. I was like camp celebrity. It was amazing. Let's see. So, little rant aside, back to talking about the fic. So, this was my penultimate recording, which, if you don't know, that means second to last. I didn't know that until, like, a month ago. But, yeah. But it wasn't, like, the penultimate chapter, because that will be 2 weeks from now, so 2 weeks from now we'll be done with this. And technically there are 2 extra chapters, but they are a link to the author's Tumblr, which wouldn't really work if I did show it to you, and a thank you note to everybody who read the fic. So please go find the fic on Ao3. Give kudos and comments. Go through their Tumblr. It's a bunch of cool fan art and stuff. I've scrolled through there a couple times, and also read the thank you note. It is so heartfelt. It's so nice. I will not be reading it because I think that is something that you should read if you actually read the fic. And I did. I have already read this because all the fics I do, I read beforehand. Also, I have been trying to put links in the description for the fics. I'm not sure if because I went through and I did all the ones that I have read off of fanfic.net, and I put links in the descriptions for the fic, though I am not sure if it worked. I really hope it did. I really hope they work. So, like, somebody would go check that for me. That would be great. But I don't really, would this be how I do it? Oh, yeah, okay. I'll probably go through tonight and do links for all of the fics I've done, so I can start trying to do that. Also, I need to get more into the habit of saying this, like, criticism, recommendation, always welcome. Like, most recommendations, I will, at least get back to you in the comments if you give me a recommendation for something. Like, I've gotten, or like requests for something, recommendations, I will almost certainly get back to you. Like, a while ago I got a couple requests. I got requests for, like, Percy Angst, Will Angst, and then I got a more specific recommendation / request for The Coral Palace, which is the other fic I'm reading right now. The Percy Jackson fic I'm reading right now. And, like, the thing is with that is that, like, no explicit content, just, like, I think the worst I've read on here is, like, self-harm. Like, I'm fine with, like, violence, blood, and stuff, just no, don't cross the line with recommendations, please. I'm not reading any of that. But, like, I will read through almost any recommendation, and if I don't, I will at least get back to you in the comments about any recommendation. And, let's just go till this hits 30 minutes, why don't we? Let's see, what else? I am not in my normal recording space, so if the sound is a little bit different, that's why. That's part of it. Also, if my throat sounds a bit more scratchy, I'm not sure if it does. But if it does, a couple days ago, like, I got back on, like, what was it, like, Tuesday? I got back on Tuesday. So I was, like, screaming music lyrics in the car, and I've been, my mom doesn't like to read, so I've been, like, reading books to her, like, the Spiderwick books. I started the Percy Jackson book, the first Percy Jackson book with her. I just finished the second Spiderwick book today, actually. I read the last, like, 30 pages of it. And so, like, I've been using my voice. Using my voice. So if it's a little bit scratchier than normal, that's why. I don't think I really have much else to say. Oh, if you guys want me to do, like, actual audiobooks, I can. Like, I have a bunch of books I could do. I have the Spiderwick books, I have the Percy Jackson books, I have... Demon Slayer manga wouldn't really work. I'd have to film the pages as we went, but I have the whole Demon Slayer manga. I also have The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, which I would only do after I finish reading them, but that's a really good series. I also have the Hunger Games books, though I don't have Sunrise on the Reaping. I really want to read Sunrise on the Reaping, but I don't have that book yet, unfortunately. Let's see, any other books that I would want to read. I'm not sure. I mean, I have the first Aragon book, but I didn't even finish it because I didn't like it. So, I don't know. Oh, I also have the Tears of Olympus books, and I would be fully willing to do any other, like, PJO books. Also, once I write, because I'm working on this super long fanfiction, like, it'll be so long. I am almost done with the first chapter, even though I've been working on it for months. I've just been gradually working on it for months and months and months. And I'm almost done with the first chapter. But I've got so many ideas for it. And so I'm definitely going to be reading that once I, like, really start writing. I don't really think I have much else. Yeah, I don't really think I have much else. Oh, I am so sorry for this super long rant. I guess I've been just wanting to rant about stuff. So next week will be Chapter 5 of the Coral Palace, and then the week after that will be the last 2 chapters of this. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all have a good night or day wherever you are. I really need to cut this off. I've been ranting for so long. Bye!